But firstly, I want to let you know that my values are of loving kindness, compassion, and empowerment for all. And should you want to book a reading with me, it is now at my new website, emilylunarastrology.com. So let me welcome Neha by introducing her properly. Okay, so she's from Astro Vibes with Neha. I do hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. I'm sure she'll tell me when she comes on in a moment. Right, so she's a certified Western, Hellenistic and Horary astrologer and a tarot card reader as well. She uses her knowledge of astrology and tarot cards to conduct custom Astro-Tarot Readings to suit the personal requirements of her clients. She provides natal chart readings to unlock their mysteries of their realities, identifying their blind spots and superpowers. She provides self-awareness, and the process is highly transformative. So let me welcome Neha to the screen. Hello.
Hello. Good to see you.
Lovely to see you too. Am I pronouncing your name correctly first?
It is Neha.
Neha,
but
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. It is. I'm used to it, but yeah, Neha is good.
Neha.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah. So lovely to be here. It's my first YouTube live. So yeah, so it's like my first time. Let's see where this goes and what happens. Quite excited.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
So by all means, as always, let us know your sun, moon, and rising to begin with, and a little bit about how that plays out in your life.
Okay, so my sun sign is Gemini, which is like yours, same as you. So
Yeah.
there. And my rising sign is Aquarius, and my moon sign is Aries.
Ah.
So yeah, so I guess how that plays out is I have a sun in and Venus actually. My sun and Venus both are in Gemini.
Mm.
So I guess I it's the typical Gemini can multitask, can do so many things at one time. I think that's like just the beauty of being a Gemini, and always so hungry for knowledge and reading. I remember when I was a child and I was just 6 years old. I would sit in one corner and I could just read from morning until night and not even realize it's like the day is progressing. It was just my safe place to read. So reading books is something I enjoy even today. uh, Podcasts, anything that is like feeding me knowledge is something I enjoy. Thank God for the internet and Google.
Yeah.
That really helps. Anytime I have questions, like, okay, and I'm starting and doing this and that. And so I think the sun in Gemini is that like communication is very important for me. I mean, even in relationships, everything, it's all about communication channels and, things like that. And then, but I do feel like Geminis can get scattered sometimes. They can just go off on a tangent or get really scattered and confused. And I'm very thankful for my Aquarian rising, which then stabilizes me, right? Because Aquarius is such a, I mean, I feel it's like, the thinking mind, but it's just so much more streamlined. So I feel like the rising sign streamlines the scatteredness of Gemini. It helps me focus in a particular direction, and it helps me make up my mind, because Aquarius is such a fixed sign, and it can get stubborn at times, but it's also a sign which will be very like, okay, now we do this and we stick with this. We do not keep changing our mind. So I think that part is really helpful for the Aquarius part. And again, I guess I'm a double air because of the Aquarius and the Gemini. So again, so like I feel like my brain is like a Wikipedia, right? And I like to everything at all times, and it's like very pure, very logical, very rational. So that's sort of my approach, and yeah, like I think that's something about me. And then the moon, in Aries makes me very impatient. I mean, there are times I say things and I'm like, what did I just say? What did I just do? What was I thinking? I mean, so much so, like, even today, I didn't think too much. I was like, okay, I'll just do this on the fly. I'll just see where this goes. I guess the moon in Aries makes me that person, very spontaneous, very,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So, yeah, that's a little about my big three.
It's kind of cool to have that bit of fire in there as well. I lack fire in my chart, so it's kind of, I get that from other people, especially my husband, he's got Sagittarius sun and he's Leo rising.
Wow.
So it's, I
Double fire.
know, I know.
Wow.
So I can literally hear him before he walks in the room, and it's like, oh wow, give me a little bit of time to sometimes sort of calm and process and whatever. But yeah, he's amazing. He really is. But
Yeah, that's really uncanny because you say that because I have two boys and they both are Leos, and one of them has the same moon as me, so he's double fire too, right? Aries and Leo. So I can totally imagine that double fire energy because it's like you said, you can hear them before they even enter the room, and then once they do, it's all about them.
yeah,
You're just like absorbing it and like, okay, 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 and yeah, they just take over.
yeah, a lot of fun, but also the master of the one-liners from the Sagittarius is like, wow, it's
Yeah,
shocking sometimes, but
brutal, brutally honest is what I call Sagittarians. They can be so brutal with their honesty.
yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Brutal and brilliant. Yeah, totally.
So let's have a little look at what kind of prompted you to get into astrology and your sort of journey to get here.
So, very interestingly, I just told you that I don't overthink things too much, even though I have this overthinking double air energy. I mean, I do, but at times I get scattered. So I was at this stage in my life where I was looking to do things, like to do something new. Uh, I was doing something in the NGO place with a friend of mine, and then COVID hit, and for some reason we could not continue the work. We used to do a lot of things in person, and then with COVID we just could not go out there and meet people and do things. So for some reason I just took a sabbatical, and I don't know why. I just was like, I cannot do this right now. And as I told you earlier, because we had so much time on hand, I used to go through all these Instagram lives and things like that, and I stumbled upon this astrologer from Hawaii, and she was talking about Western astrology. Yeah, and I was like, Deborah Silverman, the way I,
Oh,
yeah, exactly, she's from Hawaii. I mean, she was in Hawaii at that point, and she sort of, I heard her I heard her Insta live, and I was like, what is even Western astrology? I'm from India. I know the Indian system. I've heard about the Indian system, but I didn't even know about this concept because a lot of people sitting in India do not know what this is, right? They just think it's one. It's just, yeah, they don't know. And I'm like, this is interesting. And as I kept hearing her, I mean, she's amazing, right? And she's talking
yeah.
about the big three and, like your personality and the soft skills, and she's also like into psychology and things like that, and how she blends that into astrology, which is again something I enjoy. And it was so fascinating. And then of course the Gemini and the Aquarian part of me took me down this whole rabbit hole where I started googling and checking, and then I was like, let me just take a class, let me see where this takes me. And one thing just led to another, and soon enough I was studying astrology full time. I never thought it would become a career. It was really more of a passion. I was just so excited about it, to learn about it, right? Because it was so fascinating. And I just kept learning. One thing led to another, and then I had like a dissertation where I had to give an actual reading to someone I did not know so well. And that girl who I gave it to, she was so flawed. And she was like, you need to do this. You need to do this professionally. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this professionally. And she was like, just give it a try. and I did, and I guess it was just meant to be. One thing just led to another, and this is where I am. But this was not. I mean, I've always been interested in esoteric stuff, and tarot and things like that. But I never thought I would be doing it. Like I didn't think I would be practicing it. I have been to a lot of people. I just never thought I would be that person. And because I'm so logical, right? I'm a very show me the proof. This needs to make sense to me. That the Aquarius rising part of me, right? So when I studied and I realized this is such a deep science, people don't realize the kind of study and the kind of information and the kind of work that goes into this and how scientific it is, the degrees, the house systems, everything. And when it was, I think I was my own guinea pig. And when I saw my own chart and I said, oh my God, this is why things are this way, right? Like my Mars is over here in Taurus, and this is why it's doing what it's doing. It sort of validated me. I felt like these are things I knew about myself, right? But it gave me this self-acceptance. It let me realize that, it's okay. It's just the way it was supposed to be. I can work on it. I can change things about me. But it's like, a computer comes with a certain kind of hardware, right? And then you can change the hardware. But it's not, I mean, you accept it for what it is. And it all made so much sense when I saw my birth chart. I mean, even my appearance, everything. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I think it
Yeah,
was. Do
yeah.
you think so too? Like, do you share the similar beliefs or thoughts about the whole astrology practice?
Yeah, I do think it is something that is, well, it is an ancient art, and it's a language that we've seemed to have revived in many different areas of the world. And I was so fascinated that actually, when I was doing yoga before doing astrology, that there are some kind of theories that cross over. I mean, particularly there was a book by Anadea Judith. What was it called again? I've written it somewhere, but I can't remember where I wrote it. So it was like, Eastern Body, Western Mind, that kind of grabbed me because it's got this sort of Jungian psychology stuff in. And then it also links to the chakra system. And I was thinking, but now I can see some of that in astrology stuff as well. And I was like, oh, wow, it's just so cool. So I was quite fascinated. And when coming into the lockdown times, that's when I found Deborah Silverman as well. It's just like, oh, really cool to see her, and then start taking a class through her. Yeah, there is definitely a lot of different nuances, and with her background in psychotherapy, and then, as I say, applying some of the Jungian psychology in what she does, but then also focusing on some of the Saturn stuff for structure in how she gives readings and all these things. It was really quite cool. But then I've done, in the process of finishing the London School of Astrology, which is very different again. It's all very technique based rather than the esoteric. So I'm just kind of blending so many different things, and I love it. My Gemini loves all the learning, just like you.
Yeah, totally.
But also, I have an Aquarius midheaven, so in a way, it's, yes, I love to hold space for people and to give that kind of structure and compassion back into the world. And I want to be able to show that to all my clients and realize that actually, yes, they have all these different things that they came in with when they were born, but there's always free will. And it seems that there are some readers out there that put some fear in, but then others show the compassion, show the free will, show that actually every sign, every house, every placement has a this or that. It's not so black and white. And actually there's the different nuance and the different elemental things. And okay, what happens for one person might not always happen for another, or it might be stronger or it might be weaker. But actually, this is the kind of the lay of the land of what might happen in that kind of field. It could happen in this way for you, or it could happen in that way. And you've got the choice. Do you want to take this path or that one? There's so much that we can give to our clients of a bit of the reassurance, a bit of the compassion, and obviously very much so putting it back into their hands once we've given them ideas and techniques and tools to work with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it so much.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, you study lots of different styles of astrology and things, don't you? So what do you tend to use most with your clients? Is it the horary, or is it the Hellenistic side, or just a general blend of Western, or I don't know?
So very interestingly, you said that you also trained in London school. So I did my, so after I finished my full year of, just understanding and learning about the basic astrology and reading birth charts, I did a course with STA, which is the School of Traditional Astrology in London, and with Deborah Holding. And
cool.
Yeah, she's amazing, right? So she's like a guru. So yeah, I studied under her at STA in London. And that's where I studied the horary astrology, which was, I would say, more structured and more in terms of like, very, very technical. And horary is basically, so I'll just give a little difference about each, like just explain
yes,
to you
please.
what it is,
Yes,
right?
there'll be many people that don't understand much about astrology or don't know much. So actually, yes, us breaking this down would be brilliant.
Yeah, so I think like first one should like also understand the difference between Western and Indian astrology itself.
Yes.
Because like coming from India, a lot of people don't know the difference, or they're like, oh, but why don't you study Indian astrology or do that, right? But it's just a calling. Firstly, it's just what called to me. I liked the soft aspect of the Western astrology bit, the psychological aspect which comes in. And I feel like Western astrology is, it has its it comes from its roots from Greek mythology, whereas the Indian astrology is on the Hindu Vedic system and the Vedas, basically studying of the Vedas, right? And Western astrology there is a 24-degree difference. So even both have their birth chart, both have 12 houses, both have 12 zodiac signs and everything, but there is a 24-degree difference. So if I'm a Gemini sun, in about like even 20 degrees, I would be a Taurus sun in the Indian astrology because of the 24-degree. So everything is before 24 degrees before. So that changes a lot of things, right? Like I've all my life known that I am a Gemini because that's according to the Western calendar. But suddenly now I'm a Taurus sun. So like the placements change. Of course, we have the little more technical aspect with the house systems, right? Where we look at like this, with Indian astrology, it's the sidereal system, which works on the basis of the constellations. So how the constellations are, and then, you calculate accordingly. Whereas Western astrology studies the tropical system, which is the 4 seasons and things like that. So it's season-based tropical astrology. So those are those nuances, but those small nuances actually change the whole chart in a lot of ways. Like in the Indian astrology, my Saturn is somewhere entirely different. It's in a different house. It's very, very different from where it is in the Western chart. And I'm like, I relate more to my Saturn in the Western chart than in the Indian chart. So it's just what sort of works better for me also. And I feel like sometimes like Indian astrology can be more like a teacher where it is telling you what to do. And I look at Western astrology as a friend, right? Who's like, even when you're giving a reading, you're like a friend, you're holding someone's hand and like you're talking to them through it. So it's a conversation, like the conversation we're having now. Whereas I feel like in Indian astrology, like a teacher in class who will say, now you do this, now this is going to happen, now that will happen, and then this is it. So I think that this is it. It becomes a bit too final for me. I like the softer aspect of Western astrology. Not that Western is, I mean, it's great in predictions also. It has predictive tools which
Yeah.
are different and similar in a lot of ways to the Indian system. But I just like the way it's delivered. Like the Western system is softer. It's like a friend holding your hand. And I love that part of it versus being too preachy in the Indian
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, I love
Right?
that.
So
Thank you.
that is something about the Indian and Western. And then in the Western system, Hellenistic is, like I said, it's based on Greek mythologies from the Hellenistic period. So that's all what Hellenistic is. It's Hellenistic Western astrology. We follow the whole science chart, and that's how we work.
Mm.
Whereas then when I learned horary with Deborah, it was, you know, the reason I learned it is because a lot of people would ask me very specific questions, right? Like, okay, this is the general forecast, which you know in a birth chart that around this period, this is what's going to happen, or, you know, my career or my work. But if they wanted very specific questions, like, you know, I'm starting a new job, should I take it? And that is something I felt that in the Indian or Western or any astrology, like, or I don't know about the Indian, but at least with the birth chart, it can give you a guidance that, look, something's going to change for you. It can even say Saturn is there, it's going to be a little harder, or with Jupiter you'll have a lot of opportunities, but it can't be very, very specific. Horary is specific. It's that one question which someone is, it's so urgent, it's so pressing, and it's like, I need to know the answer to this. I mean, things like, you know, I lost my passport, where is it? And such a question, I feel like a birth chart would struggle to answer, whereas a horary chart can totally answer that. So I think that that was really beautiful. I mean, it really helped me to help others, because when they came with really specific questions, um, and sometimes that's all they want to know, right? Like, oh, you're an astrologer, tell me this. And
Mm.
then horary is that it's like a combination of divination and science, because it has a whole science where each person is allotted, you know, a planet, and that's how we work through it. But
Yeah.
also what happens is, why did they ask that question at that moment and not 2 months later or 2 hours later? So that moment is what we believe was meant to be. And that's why
Yeah.
you asked it to me. And so I took on the question. So that combination of the divination and the scientific angle, you know, and you put it together, you juxtapose it. And I think it's horary comes out of it. It's just so beautiful. I love it. And then I also learned tarot cards because I just thought that that could help me as one more offering that I could give clients at times. You know, sometimes people just like the visual aspect of it. They want to see the cards. They want to, you know, understand just through that. So yeah, so I studied tarot after the astrology bit. And I think I use a combination, you know, so it
Mm.
depends what somebody comes with. So a typical consultation is where first I check with a person, what are they looking for, because sometimes people don't know, they don't even know what exactly they want, but they just like, oh, we just want to know. And then, you know, you don't want to finish a whole reading and the person should not be left wondering, oh, but I didn't get that question answered. So I
Yeah.
just feel like I first check in and ask them, what is it that you're looking for? Do you want something specific? Do you want a general reading? You know, if they say, oh, I'm just curious, I just want to understand my life, and it's just, then we just do a birth chart reading, right? And
Yeah.
understand the whole life. But then, of course, if they say, I want to do this, but I also need to know, uh, very soon I'm going to change my job. And, do you think I'm going to get this other job? So then what I do is I look at the career, like the 10th house, I look at the 6th house, I see any transits over there, maybe something happening with the ascendant, or, the ruling planet of the 10th house, and what it's doing over there, any planets in the 10th house, 6th
Yeah.
house. I look at that in the birth chart, and then I also pull cards in the reading, so I make it more
Mm.
so it's like a combination of, say, Astro Tarot, and somebody's like, no, I just have this one question, then we just do a horary. So I think it's very hybrid. I would call my practice very hybrid, it depends upon what my client wants, because I want them to go back satisfied. I think that is the bottom line. That's how I work.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I do see lots of actual crossovers as well, because we've just, I say in the final year that I'm in of London School of Astrology, we are actually starting to look at horary as well. And then I thought, oh, wow, isn't the timing beautiful that suddenly I'm going to have this chat with you when we've just done a few lessons on horary, and then seeing, oh, there's the crossover between the sort of divinationary side of things and the tarot things that I already think about. And occasionally, yes, I would pull the odd card or something if someone wants one, or do a separate complete tarot reading if someone wants one. But yeah, it's just beautiful to think, the way that I formulated a question for Frank Clifford and Richard Swatton to look at was how I would formulate a tarot question. And it's just like, brilliant, this is what we need. And when I was looking at what other students are saying, oh, this is a clear example. Thank you, Emily. I was thinking, oh, brilliant. And actually, yeah, it was a lovely experience.
Yeah. I just love horary. I just find it so amazing, so beautiful. The whole concept of it and the way it works. And I've seen that, like, even when I talk to people about it, I think the name itself, horary, okay, what does that mean? And then they want to know more. And yeah, it's quite
exciting. I think Frank and Richard described it as of the hour
of
for
the
horary.
hour.
Yeah.
Hora, yeah. It comes from the Latin word hora, which means of the hour.
That'd be why then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I just love horror, and I love the results it shows. You'll be surprised. I mean, there are times people ask me a question like, where is my missing ring? And I have had them ask, I'm like, I don't know why I'm asking you this. I know it's not related to the question, but did you have like this argument at home with a sibling? And they're like, oh my God, where did you get that from? And sometimes it just throws a very different, I mean, even though you're asking about it, and of course you address that, but sometimes even something completely different comes out in the chart. And I've always wondered, I mean, not always, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it happens. And I'm like, where is this coming from? But it's just so beautiful.
We did have a comment earlier as well. I'm not 100% sure what they meant by this, but I guess there are some kind of similarities between what astrology can give and where numerology and predictive techniques and things come in. So that's interesting. So thank you for commenting.
Yeah, thank you. But, I am fascinated by numerology, but I do not practice numerology. So I do not think I'm the right person to answer that. I don't know. I think what she meant to ask was that is numerology as predictive a technique as maybe astrology? But I do not know that for sure. I've not studied numerology, so I wouldn't. Would you, Emily? Would you know that?
I'm not clear enough to know a lot about that either, particularly, but I know that I do have a friend who does use numerology with his tarot, but I'm not so sure about how to use it with astrology or anything like that particularly. But,
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I feel like people, I get that in India, right? Like people just assume that if you're an astrologer, they'll ask you things like, oh, but do you, but you need to tell them that, look, even numerology is so different from astrology, and astrology is so different from even tarot. I mean,
yeah,
right. So these are all very different techniques of studying. So yeah. It's interesting how you're getting the comments. I can't see the comments on my screen. I think it comes on yours.
it might come up mostly on YouTube, but then when it comes up on the side, I can then decide whether I want to kind of bring them onto screen to have a look at or not. But yeah.
Okay.
So Oh, so what did your sort of friends and family think about you studying astrology and then using it in your business and things?
I think everybody was very surprised. They did not
Yeah.
see it coming. Yeah, totally. Like even now, I go out and people were like, "Oh, never thought you would do something like this," and we never, you know. And I think I enjoy that. I love it when I shock people. The Aquarius rising, right? It
Yeah.
it needs to do things against the grain. It needs to march to the beat of its own drums, right? And my Uranus is in the 10th house.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. So anybody,
Unusual careers, unusual reputation.
exactly. So anybody who understands can understand when they see, when they hear that, okay, if they know a little bit about astrology, like, oh, you're Aquarius rising, you have Uranus in your 10th house. And what, like, how come you weren't doing it for this long? Like,
Yeah.
fellow astrologers tell me that, right? But I guess there's a time and a place for these things. And I guess it's very unexpected. People did not see it coming. And I think the Aquarius rising is that person who, at times, the extreme part of it is that they can be misunderstood or people cannot understand them. And I think that is definitely something I resonate with, where people expect me to be a certain way, and then I'm like just doing something completely different against the norm, and marching to the beats of my own drums. And I remember that like when I was much younger also, I could not just do a 9 to 5 job. I used to get very, very restless. I used to get bored very easily. And I was like, do I have some attention disorder? Like, what is happening? Like, why am I not being able to focus on this? And like I told you earlier, right, when I saw my birth chart, when I saw the Uranus was in my 10th house, I realized, look, I can't do a 9 to 5. I have to do something that's flexible, which works at my times, right? Because I do have other things. I have 2 children, and I manage that. I have a lot of other things, and there's work. So I need to be flexible. I need to do this at my own time. And I think that Uranus in 10th house is something which, I mean, it makes sense for me now that I need to do things at my own pace, at my own time, in my own style. And it's not something that is traditional. It's not something that is necessarily what everybody understands, as long as it makes sense to me. So.
Yes. But again, if you had a client with lots of Uranian energies, then you'd be able to give them that reassurance and that permission slip, as it were, to say, well, actually, maybe you won't do the 9 to 5. Maybe you'll do something slightly unique, and maybe you have got a slight genius in one area of your life. Maybe you do like some, I don't know, some science or some spirituality or blending of the two or whatever. You've got to make it your own.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And everybody's like, and I'm like that person. I'm like, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone as long as it makes sense to me.
Yes.
So I guess, yeah, it works for me. And I've never lived by expectations of other people. So it doesn't matter, right? But there was a lot of, I won't say resistance, but there was a lot of surprise. Like, really, this is what you're doing? Like, how come? My family, my close family was really excited about it. They were really excited, but I would say like friends or people who don't know me so well, more like acquaintances, they were a bit taken aback. Like, yeah.
Have you faced many challenges within your business, and has sort of your astrology and tarot and everything that you do, that kind of helped?
So you mean like in the business?
Well, within starting it or within just generally, yeah.
So starting it was pretty seamless. I had a couple of people who sort of pushed me into it. Like they literally pushed me into the deep end, and I just begun something like this. What we're doing today, it was just like a push into the deep end, and let's see where this takes me. So yeah, that was how it started. but I think it took some time for people to take me seriously. Not, and I don't want to generalize, I don't want to stereotype, I don't want to get into this, this bracket with people, but I just feel like women, or people who, the female audience, were way more interested, more forthcoming, more, oh, let's do this, is it esoteric, and they wanted to get into their emotions and feelings, and understand things about how they were and work on themselves. um, Whereas certain, I would say, men were quite skeptical. I just find that men in this, towards this field, if they don't understand something, they, I don't know whether there is a fear, or there's the fear which is underlying, and then there's a certain amount of like, I don't know what this is, so I will not, I don't, and then they'll just say things like, oh, I don't believe in this, how can two Geminis be alike, like comments like that, so therefore I don't believe in it. And I mean, my teacher had said something very beautiful. She said, you're not here to prove otherwise. There are going to be all sorts of people. There are going to be some people who believe in this, there are going to be some people who do not. It's not your job to convert anybody into becoming a believer of astrology or esoteric practices, right? You just do what you do, and you do it with passion, you do it with honesty, towards what you're doing, and the right people will just come. And touch wood, I've been lucky in that sense that at least with clients, I've never had anybody who's coming and testing me, right? Because I've heard with people where they come and they just come and they sit quiet, and they just literally like paying you but testing you. And it's like, then you're on the receiving end and you're like, I'm being tested, what am I doing here? I've never had that experience. They come to me and they sort of surrender, and they literally say, you're the expert and now you guide me. And it's touch wood, I've been really lucky in that sense, where I've had really nice people. um Sometimes I see their charts and I'm like, oh my god, this person is a Capricorn rising or a triple Capricorn, I don't know how this meeting's gonna go. I've actually had a triple Capricorn, it's not been easy, but still, even they are very, once they come on the table and they do the meeting with me, there's no testing happening. They're very easy and forthcoming and believing, and I think that's really empowering, and it gives me a responsibility that, look, I need to deliver and do this right. So yeah, that's in general.
Yeah, I think that, as with anything, we need to sort of hone our craft and get the skill set and everything before we then look to have clients or readings, etc. And there might be people out there that don't know an awful lot, and maybe they're misguiding people. But at the same token, when you do know what you're talking about and you have studied under some amazing people like we both have, then it does give that reassurance to people. Oh, actually, maybe there is something in this. Maybe all this history and skills and knowledge and everything, connection to the world around us, the elements, the language, etc. Maybe there is something in this. Maybe this is why people navigated with the moon and the stars, why people actually look to the seasons, and why there are similarities in people that were born in certain time periods and things. So there is something in it. And just literally saying, well, do you believe that the sun rises and that we have some energy from that? Or that when we can't see the moon, sometimes people feel a bit lost or confused. Do you believe that some of that's true or that's possible? Then actually you realize that there is nuance, but also there is something that everyone can relate to. So yeah, it is quite interesting.
Yeah, and I think I just want to add one more thing that,
Sure.
Especially in India, right? What happens is, and I'm sure it happens everywhere in the world, but I have seen this. I mean, I have been victim to it myself, where there were times when, there are every other person, like there are a lot of people who, um, they feed on another person's fear, right? So like if they tell you something scary and then they demand a whole lot of money and they say, okay, this is a remedy I'll offer you, like I will do this at some temple, but you have to give me so much money, right? So those are the kind of people one has to be wary from. Like they're those doomsday kind of people, and they'll tell you, oh, this horrible thing is going to happen in your life, but if you do this and I'll get it done for you, and then everything will change. And I, unfortunately, lot of people, because India is a very, I would say, spiritual country, but then there are people who misuse it also at times. Not everybody, but sometimes, right?
Mm.
And at some point or the other, if they've had that experience, I had that experience as a, when I was much younger, because I was interested in it. And then what happens is people get scared, or people lose the faith completely because they went to that one person who said something, and or things didn't turn out the way they said, or I don't know, things like that, and then they get very afraid. And I'm like, you know what, firstly, you need to remove the fear. There's no fear around this. It's just, and that part, that misunderstanding that people have about astrology, right? It's sad to see it. It's a block that, oh, I don't want to come to you. I'm just so scared. And that's the first, I mean, it hurts, it pains me, because I'm like, it's not scary. Firstly, like, at least Western astrology is not scary. I'm not going to tell you something so scary. I don't even know how to see anything so scary. Like, yeah, you have challenges, you have roadblocks. Who doesn't? And the whole
Exactly.
point is to navigate through them, right? It's a process of, like I always say, be prepared, not scared. You know, we are preparing you. We're not scaring you. You're coming here, you're doing a forecast, you want to know what's coming up in life, you want this urgent question answered. It's all about preparation. It's not fear based. It's not to scare you. So prepare, be prepared, not scared, is literally my mantra.
I love it. Yeah.
I
And
I just wish more people would do that, right? And bust this myth that it's scary. That part of it it's just very disheartening to see that when people are so scared about the whole practice.
yeah, I wholeheartedly agree that yes, as astrologers who have trained and who have done the professional hours and studies under some amazing people who know their craft as well, that actually we do have that responsibility to debunk the myths and to hold space in a more appropriate way. It's not ethical or moral to scare people or tell them things that we can't possibly have the knowledge of. I have heard of horror stories of people being told, well, this could mean you're going to have a serious illness, or this means you're going to die. And thinking, how could you say that to somebody? How could you actually, one, as you say, bring that fear? But also, none of us knows that. We can't possibly know that.
Yeah.
We might know that there might be some tricky situations that they might find themselves in, because there might be some planets that come together in a way that might bring about some disruption or some changes, but we can't possibly know on what realm that will be or what exactly it would look like. And to actually fearmonger and scare people senseless, it's not ethical or moral. And I would really, as you say, I would be upset as well to hear of too many people having that happen to them. As astrologers, that's not our place.
No. And it's just so funny you give this example, because that's the exact thing that happened to me when I was studying astrology. I had a face reader tell me this about, oh, yeah, like something exactly what you just mentioned, that you're going to, like, something so drastic and catastrophic is going to happen in your life. And I was so disillusioned. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm studying this, and then there's this person who says this to me. And my friend explained that that's the reason you're studying, because you're gonna offset people like this.
Yeah.
The more people you reach and realize how authentic it is what you do, right? And that's where you will, change, or offset the whole negativity around this. And that really, I mean, I have her to thank, because she really motivated me to continue, because I was so disillusioned. Even though I was studying this, somebody from out, like a face reader, said this to me, and it does scare you when you hear these things. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's influences of Saturn and Pluto, but actually, how else would we mature and grow if we weren't sometimes course corrected to say, well, actually, maybe you just want to push yourself a little bit further here, or maybe there might be something that you need to release in life because we can't hold on so tightly grip of everything. But that is what we tend to say for the scenarios of, well, there's going to be some restructuring, some maturity and things with Saturn. Might maybe need to be a bit more disciplined in so-and-so area. Or with Pluto, actually, yeah, we need to release a few things. Or there might be a few changes that you weren't prepared for. But at the same token, ultimately, it's going to be for your highest good. It's going to be something that prepares you for the future, and actually something that you're going to grow through and have some good transformation from your life. It might be hard to begin with.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I feel like. No one grew from the happy times. Happy times are just to be happy, but it's the tough times and the challenging times which actually make you grow, right? Like become the person you were meant to be.
Yeah. We mold, we shape like everything else around us.
Exactly.
So what are some things that you're proud of in your life? Whether it's in your career or whether it's personally, some like big milestones and things you think, oh, I did that.
Well, I think professionally, definitely, when I have clients who reflect and then they write to me and they say things like, oh, this really changed for me, or my outlook changed, or, this, I mean, not that I'm waiting for their validation or anything, but, when they have that aha moment, or when things just sit for them and they feel good, or they feel validated, or they have a question, a burning question, and it's answered, or even something as simple as they lost an item and they found it, and I'm like, yay. It's really lovely to see those things, and I feel so good that I have helped them in some way, right? Like I feel that's the ultimate gratification and growth, when you see that, oh my God, you can help someone, like another human. And I think that is something that really pushes me to go on and continue, because that feeling you get when they are happy, and then they recommend you to somebody else. Because I don't know about you, but I have felt that my biggest the way I've grown is through the word of mouth, right? So like you have a mother, and then she'll send her daughter, and then the daughter will send her friend, and then the friend will tell somebody else. And I think the fact that you're sharing this, my contact with your loved ones, just goes to show that you obviously will do it only if it sort of sat with you, or resonated with you, or changed something for you. And I think that's just such an amazing feeling. So I think professionally, nothing that I have done until now has given me that feeling like this has. And I think that is the reason I love what I do, and I think it pushes me to continue doing this practice. I think personally, I have two children, and when they're just wonderful. Like they have a great work ethic, and they're disciplined, and I think above all, they are very empathetic human beings, right? Like they have empathy, they have respect for everybody around them, and they know right from wrong. I mean, not always, but they're growing to be the people where I sometimes go to for advice. Like I ask them, and I'm like, what do you think? And I actually come back with, like, they give me some great suggestions, and I'm like, oh, why didn't I think about that? And so when that happens, when I'm just seeing the people they're growing up to be, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I was instrumental in doing this. you know I had one of my son's classmates' mom write a very beautiful note for me. And I told her the other day, I said, I'm going to frame this and I'm going to keep it when I become an old grandmother. I'm going to sit and this is like my biggest asset, this note, because she was saying that he's my son is very empathetic, and he's a good human being. And I think we need to raise good people in this world, the next generation. you know it's our duty, it's our responsibility. And as I feel like those few voices will just go such a long way, and there's so much not good out there that you need that. And if I am instrumental in just doing that with two humans, I think that's an accomplishment. I would like, I'm really proud of that, if I may say so.
Of course, yeah. I don't have children myself, but being an influence in nieces and nephews' lives and things is a beautiful thing too. It does surprise you, and it also makes you feel so amazing to know that actually something that either you or friends or family have done has actually impacted their lives in a positive way, and that they're then bringing that energy onto somebody else as well, and it's affecting your community, your collective, and everyone around you. Like, brilliant. We're growing little humans that are respecting boundaries and being those lovely individuals that they were born to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So do you have anything that you'd like to share about any offerings you have, or?
So right now I am doing consultations, private consultations. I consult on Zoom. So from anywhere in the world, you can just get in touch with me. I am available on Facebook and Instagram with my handle, which is Astro Vibes with Neha. And I do, like I said, I do birth chart readings. I look at the year ahead, where we, look at how the year is looking the next 1 year or couple of years. And then I do horary, which is the very specific question where you ask one question and you get one answer. And I also do tarot and oracle cards. That's yeah. And I think I'm always a work in motion. So I want to keep studying parallelly and then adding that. A lot of people ask me, do I teach yet? And I'm like, no, I don't think I have the patience for that. So yeah, not yet. But yeah, I think my goal would be to work with smaller groups, like conduct workshops, but like in like 8 to 10 people. So, and then, help them integrate or, get to know each other better, and things like that through astrology. So like through understanding yourself through astrology, and then, small workshops where you talk about what's happening currently, things like that. So I have done one or two, like a couple of these corporate ones, but, where they have these team building exercises through astrology. So I think something like that is something I would really be interested in, besides my practice, of course.
So I tend to ask people the same question in a roundabout kind of way. So how do you manifest your dreams into reality and stay consistent with your goals?
Okay. So I think manifestation has become a very big word. Everybody's talking about it. Like everybody's talking about manifestation and manifestation workshops, and, attending all these workshops, doing all these things. I think it's amazing to do it. But I think my Aquarius rising, which is ruled by Saturn, I think you know what's coming, is always gonna say that yes, you need to manifest, you need to have a goal, you need to visualize it, visualizations, think about what you want, get it into, keep visualizing, meditating, things like that, right? But I think the Saturn part of me says also work towards it. You can't just sit on the bed all day and say, I am manifesting that I'm going to become, the next Forbes under 40, under 50, whatever it is, right? I mean, you need to you need to put it into practice, because you need to have a goal and you need to work towards it. You need to do every day. I feel like you need to write down that this is what I did today to reach a little closer to my goal. It could be something as simple as I got out of bed today, even though I didn't feel like it. I just could not, I was not feeling good, but I made that effort and I got up and I moved. It can be something so small. I'm not saying it has to be huge. It's one step at a time. It's baby steps, but you need to do it. It has to be parallel. You need to do both things. You need to manifest. You need to imagine that future. I'm totally all about visualizations, imagination, actually thinking. Like, people say you need to even smell the scents in and around you at that point. And I'm all for that, but you need to simultaneously work towards those goals. You need to do it together. I don't think that it just happens. I mean, if you're really lucky, it does, but I don't see that happening. I'm ruled by Saturn, so maybe people ruled by Jupiter and Venus, it happens like that for them. But for the rest of us, we need to work also. So I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I would say the same as well. That actually, yeah, we can manifest things, particularly with new moons, and take a few actions, more so at quarter moons. And then by the time you get to a full moon, actually, by that point, hopefully a lot of what you're working on is showing some results or showing you where to tweak if need be and that sort of thing. And then last quarter moon, it's maintenance. But I do say to people to take those daily aligned action steps. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree that manifesting on its own, it needs results, but actually it needs some practicalities too. We can't just, well, most of the time can't just see it and it happen.
And I think as an astrologer, the timing of it becomes so important. We know the timing, right? Like, if there's a new Pisces, or there's, like, which we just had recently, and then it was like a really great time to manifest, because Pisces is all about the whole manifestation energy, right? And new moons are usually that. So I think that the timing of it, like, you set the seeds, you plant the seeds, you think about something, and you give birth to it, like a new moon, right? Which is the new phase and things like that. Write it down, and then I feel consistently also write the steps to reach there. Don't just write it and then forget about it, and then 15 days later, it's like, oh, it's the full moon, nothing happened. So if only life was that simple. It's you need to work towards it. But yes, I definitely think once you put it out there, especially during a new moon, and you surrender to that energy to an extent, it does come into, I mean, you need to believe it to actually see it happen. You need to believe it. You don't just say, oh, this will happen, okay, I'm going to say it because I want to manifest. No, you need to really, really believe it.
Yeah. Well, it has been really lovely talking to you, Neha. And where can people find you if they want to work with you?
So Emily, it's been lovely talking to you also. Like I said, it's my first live. I'm quite excited. I think it was pretty good, if I may say so myself. So yeah, people can find me on, like I said, Instagram, as well as Facebook. I go by the handle Astro Vibes with Neha. It's one word. And of course, once you DM me, then I can, give you more details. I do not put my work telephone number out there, but we do connect later on WhatsApp or something. And all my meetings, all my consultations, everything's on Zoom. I don't really meet people in person, even if they were living a block away or anything, I don't. So it's all on Zoom. So yeah, that's the best way to connect with me. Facebook and Instagram. Yeah.
Brilliant. Because I always forget to say this, But if our conversation has resonated with you and you've enjoyed our time and catch us on the replay, or you have any questions, please do remember to like, subscribe, and share with your friends so that I can bring some more lovely guests on and hopefully influence more people's lives and talk astrology, which is something I'm passionate about, as people will see by now. So thanks again, Neha. I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.